So what makes every meeting successful or not successful is what happens before the meeting, the preparation. So I want to talk to you for a minute about how to make all your OKR meetings just awesome. Now, the preparation is a bit like this. Imagine that we want to run our OKR meeting on day 3, let's say Friday. What that means is Wednesday, 2 days before, we need to do some activity. Thursday, some different activity, so that on Friday we can run the meeting. So on Wednesday, day 1, what we need to do is have the OKR owners make sure they've put in their performance, the number for the key result, % complete for projects. Then they're going to assess it. They're going to score it, red, yellow, green, as we've talked about. Red means send help, yellow's I'll make it, I'm off target now, green on target. And commentary, the what, so what, now what we talked about. So now by, we'll say noon Wednesday, the newspaper's all been printed. We can all read for ourselves exactly what's happening across the entire organization. The leader of that part of the organization is going to review the performance, and they're going to set the agenda, right? That standard agenda we've been talking about. They're going to say, what are the 3 problems or 4 problems you're going to deal with, who are the subject matter experts, how much time are we given, all that kind of stuff. And we're going to send it out in advance so that people actually have the time to prepare for it. That means on Thursday, the day in between, the subject matter experts that were identified, they can go put together their briefing deck. And there's a standard briefing deck I'll reveal to you in a moment. And then the OKR owners themselves will review their performance and other teams. They're going to consider impact on and impacted by. This is super important, and it forces everyone to take a look at the entire organization. Impact on is, given the performance I see, what impact did my team have on that performance? So let's say the product launch was early. How did my team have an impact on that early delivery? Did we develop it faster, get the specs out faster, do the quality testing faster? What was our impact on that? And then impacted by, given that launch is early, how am I impacted by it? And that might mean for HR, they've got to get the training done sooner. It might mean for customer support, I better arm the customer success team with more capacity in the near term. For the trouble ticket people, maybe I need to increase capacity around that new product launch, etc. Impact on, impacted by. This forces you to internalize the full performance across the organization. And then I want you to develop recommendations based on what you see. What do you think we should do? And here's an interesting statistic. We found that in meetings where someone just dumped the spreadsheet in front of you as you sat down for the meeting, the recommendations you make in that meeting have about a 30% success rate. In other words, only 30% of them are viable, can be implemented, and deliver benefits. If, on the other hand, we have this day to prepare and to develop your recommendations, that success rate moves from 30% up to 70%. 70% of your recommendations are viable, can be implemented, and offer benefits. So the meeting machinery becomes way more effective when people can actually prepare for the content. Now, there's a bunch of corollaries to that, one of which is you can never add new content in the meeting during the meeting because people don't have a chance to come up with those great recommendations. And then day 3 is easy. I just run the meeting. But you can see what I said in the introduction. The success of this meeting is predetermined by the preparation work. You don't do this preparation work, this ain't going to happen like you want. When it does happen, it means that you end up having 50% fewer meetings, and the meetings are on average 37% faster. So, less time in meetings. Now, my meeting meme is this. You never do in a meeting what can be done out of a meeting. We've all sat in meetings where it reverts to a conversation between 2 people. That's not a meeting. Take it offline. Have that conversation offline and don't waste everyone else's time. So what does that mean? It means that before every meeting, you need to do 1, provide your data and review all the data. 2, do your analysis. Do your red, yellow, green, do your what, so what, now what. Take a look at impact on, impacted by. Do your research. Work with your team to develop great recommendations and make sure that you've got the right subject matter expertise in that meeting. Now, I showed you this before as a sample agenda, right? With level set, parking lot, the three problems being dealt with, and then allocate and close. So what this means is once you've set this agenda, that's what I set on Wednesday afternoon in my example, there's going to be 3 people that need to prepare their briefing. And I'll show you what that slide deck looks like in a second. And your job is to prepare the slides. And people might also be asking you questions ahead of time because they'll know who you are from the agenda. They might ask you questions of clarification. For everyone else, I expect you to do that analysis that impacted on and impacted by. This way, we're all geared up for an awesome meeting. So let's talk about what the subject matter experts want to do. I'm suggesting 3 slides. It's still what, so what, now what, but slightly different. So the what, I want more detail about what caused it. In this case, you can also add in additional numbers. I said before for that short analysis, you cannot. In this case, you can. And so I want you to answer 2 broad categories of issues. What are the characteristics of the issue? And what are the possible causes? So these are things like, what specifically is the issue? What evidence do you have that this is happening or will happen? What would other departments see to help them understand what their perspective or their symptoms of the same problem is? And of course, what's the cost or revenue implications of this issue? I also want you to explore what the possible causes are because as a subject matter expert, you probably have better ideas of what might be causing it. Also look to upstream and downstream issues because that's typically where the problem is. Often where you see the problem is a symptom, not the root cause. And therefore you can give some guesses as to where the control might be in authority. Second slide, so what? So this is going into more detail about what happens if we don't solve the problem. And this is more about the size and type of impact. So what's the cost, revenue, utilization impacts? Who are the customers impacted? Who's the staff impacted? What suppliers are impacted? And how long will these impacts be felt? And now what? Now, you might not have all the recommendations, but I'd like to know a strong model of what you think we might do. And more importantly, what things have you already looked at and discounted so people don't waste their time? Now, I in fact recommend that these slides be produced in a place that's accessible to everyone, whether that's Google Slides or SharePoint. It'd be nice if people could see this ahead of time because that will help form their group work and preparation. Now, a couple of rules that need to sort of get put in place. So the roles in the meeting are as follows. We need a facilitator, someone who's responsible for running the meeting. Now, that does not have to be the team leader. In fact, I recommend it's not the team leader eventually, because it's a great development opportunity for your staff, and it's a great way for the leaders to see how well it is you can respond to the challenge of leading a team and that of being a leader. We need the SMEs that are going to contribute the content. We need to make sure that decision makers in the room. So again, there's different ways we make decisions. Sometimes it's veto power. Then I just need to make sure that one person is in the room. It might be majority rules. We've got to make sure we got consent or the quorum to make that vote in the room. It might be unanimous, in which case we need to make sure everyone's in the room. And then we need the most important role, which is the timekeeper. The timekeeper is going to keep us on schedule, like a referee. They'll give us a 2-minute warning, a 1-minute warning. It's all good. Secondly, I'd like you to consider some rules that I'd like you to stick to. In no particular order, don't postpone this OKR performance meetings. The second you postpone it, you're sending the message that something else, anything else, is more important in this meeting. So set the rules in advance. Can you send delegates? Can you attend remotely? Second, always start on time. Every time. And it's important to note that the meeting doesn't wait for anyone. Even if the decision maker is not there, you just drop that item off the agenda, you still start on time. It is wasteful, a huge cost to the organization. Everyone's sitting around waiting for the last person. It also deteriorates because now people realize you don't have to be there on time. And if they got something else that's even slightly more important, they'll take that on. And that's dismissing the importance of all the other things that aren't getting done by everyone who's waiting for you. In fact, it's even worse than that. When you show up, people want to give you a recount of what you missed. Don't do that. If you show up late, figure out how you make up for what you missed. Do not ever add in any other topics. So often we see people go, gosh, I got all the right people in the room. Let's just add this in the agenda. Dominoes. Now all the other meetings are knocked off schedule, and those other meetings might be dealing with more important things. But more importantly, you're down to a 30% success rate. You end up with the content that is at best 30% likely to be successful as opposed to 70%. So just put it in the parking lot. Create a new meeting, even if it's the next day. Agree on the decision-making criteria before the meeting. Is it veto? Is it majority rules, unanimous? So that we don't get partway through. And partly that dictates how long we talk for. If it's veto power, you just talk until that person can make up their mind. If it's unanimous, you have a much longer conversation. Have a signal for someone's rambling, like, circling your finger in the air or something, because we all get caught up. We miss something that was said before, or we find ourselves repeating ourselves. And then finally, make sure the room is risk-free. Avoid any blaming that goes on, because that's the only way you'll get better ideation and allow people to voice their opinions. So those are the meeting roles and meeting rules. I hope this is useful in helping you make your meetings successful. We'd love to share more of our ideas with you. There are probably about 300 YouTube videos that we've recorded that you can find on our YouTube page. We also write a continuous series of blogs about OKR and related topics. Or feel free just to give us a phone call or email me. Happy to have a conversation about any of these topics. Talk to you soon.